Greetings fellow humans, 'tis I, Local Cryptid. Welcome back to my channel. I've been playing the Bloodhunt alpha test over the last 24 hours, and I had a couple of thoughts I wanted to share based on what I experienced in that closed alpha. If you're looking for a TLDR version of how it went, here it is. The game looks great. It feels really good. I think it will look a lot better when it's fleshed out, but right now the version of it that we've been playing over the past couple of days is actually really solid. Starting from the mechanics themselves, it is very reminiscent of games like Apex. Obviously it's a battle royale. You start with 45 players, you drop into like downtown Prague, and your aim is to really be the last one standing. Where it's really similar to Apex is that abilities and movement tech are super important. There's a lot of wall running and climbing and a lot of movement abilities that help you get around and get into position within the city itself. I was regularly just hammering Soaring Leap in order to rotate really quickly around the map, get myself into advantageous positions, and get the drop on other players. The beautiful thing about it being set in the city of Prague is that it is a lot more claustrophobic than other battle royales. Obviously, if you're coming from Apex or PUBG or even Fortnite, then you're used to like big, wide open spaces with not a lot in between. This is a much smaller experience in a much more tightly packed environment. So a lot of the engagements are really quite different. Cover is super important. Angles of attack are really important. It's third person as well, so the way you're aiming and using corners is a lot more different from, again, games like, say, Apex, which is first person. It's more reminiscent then of a Fortnite or a PUBG. There are bigger, wide open spaces, but these tend to be taken up by the entity, which are kind of like another enemy force within the game. They are AI controlled. They represent the Second Inquisition, I would assume. They act as a mob on the map that controls higher tier loot. So if you manage to kill a couple, pick up their gear, you can actually get an advantage over other players that way. But they hit like trucks, so it's very difficult to actually engage them one-on-one. I know that when I was fighting against them a lot of the time in solo queues, it was a fool's errand unless you already had decent weaponry and positioning. The character creation stuff present in the game was fairly limited. Obviously this has been an alpha test, so there's not a lot of the assets already in the game. You have access to 3 of the clans. You've got the Brujah, who are obviously your brawler types, your get stuck in, punching, swinging with like short range weapons. You've got your Nosferatu, which are obviously your sneaky class. They are gathering information, becoming invisible, tracking enemies that way. And then you've got your Toreadors, who are a surprising addition for the alpha, I think. They work mainly on misdirection. You can actually position yourself in a way where you can get in and amongst an encounter, an engagement, and then pull yourself out using like their teleport ability, which is really cool. I didn't spend a lot of time playing the Toreadors just because I didn't have a lot of time hands-on with the game, and I was really getting into playing the Brujah. Again, Soaring Leap, just absolutely abusing that. Each of the clans kind of look the same, except for the Nosferatu, of course, because they're Nosferatu. They look a little bit, you know. So it's very difficult on the ground to tell who is who until you see their toolkit. I wonder really if that's going to get expanded upon in the full release, but we'll see when that happens. With the character stuff, it looks to have borrowed a lot from Apex, where it's all very much class-based. If you played a class-based game, perhaps like Overwatch or Rainbow Six, you're probably going to understand how it works a little bit more, but it's fairly easy to get into once you get the hang of everyone's toolkit. Playing third person really took a little bit of getting used to, having spent so much of my time as of late playing nothing but Apex and Destiny. But once you get over that and learn how to use the corners to your benefit, it's actually got a really nice sort of tactical edge to it. One thing I really love about it is the Bloodhunt mechanic. Now, if you are a fan of World of Darkness games, then you know how a Bloodhunt works. So if you use your powers or you get into combat around mortals who are dotted around the map, then you become visible to your enemies for a short period of time, and they can sort of track you on the map that way. It's very reminiscent of how the Bloodhunt works in lore as well. The other cool thing that comes with mortals is blood resonances. So some people on the map will just have kind of regular blood, but others will have, say, the climatic resonance, which gives you a boost to a certain ability cooldown. Some of them will give you more melee damage, others will just give you blanket health regen over time. I noticed there's a lot of people on Twitter kind of giving a bit of pushback, asking why we really needed a VTM flavored battle royale. Does it actually makes sense? And I've been kind of struggling with that answer myself because it is a really weird premise, but I've kind of come to the decision that, you know, as much as we really didn't need a VTM themed battle royale, that's kind of not the point. Up until recently, the only video games we'd seen within the World of Darkness were things like the original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines or Requiem. Over the last couple of years, we've seen the World of Darkness IP kind of get fleshed out a little bit more in the video game sphere. We obviously had Werewolf the Apocalypse game come out earlier last year, I believe, and we've also had Shadows and Coteries of New York, which was more in the visual novel kind of vein, and now we've got Bloodhunt, which is a battle royale. It's kind of harkening back to a couple of years ago where Games Workshop were doing a very similar thing with the Warhammer and Warhammer 40k IPs, where previously you would have very limited like video game coverage of these because they wanted to focus very much on the tabletop brand. So the only games we really got were things like Dawn of War, which was great, and Fire Warrior, which was less great. Over the last couple of years, they've really fleshed out that IP, giving out licenses to small parts of the brand to smaller developers, which is why we've seen Necromunda, Blood Bowl, Battlefleet Gothic, I think, came out as well. That's been another one we had. See, the problem with these big franchises with so many years of lore and backstory is very difficult to get new players into that story because there's so much you have to learn just to understand what's going on. Using tiny little bits of the lore and creating their own IPs from it, such as Bloodhunt or Coteries or Shadows, means that you can create an entry point into the entire ecosystem for new players. Not every single person who picks up Bloodhunt is going to pick up the 5th edition rulebook like I've got in my bookcase, but some of them might pick up Bloodlines or Shadows of New York, or even go back as far as playing Requiem. I think what's going on with the World of Darkness brand is that they're trying to expand it to these IPs in order to bolster the brand, but they're doing it in a way that they can farm out these little licenses to other developers, so that if a game bombs or doesn't perform quite as well as they want, then they can just say, well, third-party developer, we only lost so much out of this, we can just keep going with our own thing, but still reaping the benefits of those partnerships. Overall, I really like it. I think it's going to be great when it gets a bit more fleshed out. I'm looking forward to seeing maybe a public beta within the next couple of months, and then of course the public release after that. Is it going to be a game I sink hundreds of hours into? Maybe not, I don't know, but as someone who really loves World of Darkness content, it's probably something I'll get stuck into a little bit. Check it out. Have a nice time. That's it for me. I really want to know what you thought about the alpha in the comments. Let me know if you played it. Let me know if you enjoyed it. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'd really love to do more World of Darkness content. If that's something y'all are interested in, just let me know. If you did enjoy this video, a like would be super appreciated. It really does help me out. And as always, thanks for hanging out through small parts of the lore that can get fleshed out into their own. It's really loud, guys. You done? Thank you.